Hello everyone, I hope your day is starting off just as fantastic as it possibly can. We're starting the video with a beautiful picture of my two puppies. We're going to be enjoying another fantastic day here in Canada, but that's as beautiful as the picture gets. For the rest of the video, the pictures are quite ugly. Now, the title of the video is that the United States has launched a direct economic attack against Canada. And I know that there will be some Americans that say, well, wait a minute, no, it's not all Americans. It's just Donald Trump. And may I remind you that Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He's the guy that the people of the United States elected to represent them. So yes, it is the United States taking this action against Canada. I'm going to read you the headlines that you're going to see over the next couple of days on this issue. And then I'm going to define a few terms that maybe you don't know or don't understand. And then I'm going to give you my perspective on exactly what's going on. So let's get right into it. Reported here on CBC News, the headline is Trump wants Canada's digital service tax gone before trade talks resume. The US president calls the DST an attack on our country. Reported on CTV News, we have all the cards, Trump says, ending all trade talks with Canada immediately over the digital service tax. Let's go straight to the horse's mouth and see what this is all about. Like all announcements that are made by Donald Trump, it was done via the internet, a post on Truth Social. We have just been informed that Canada, and I have to stop right there and point out that the first 7 words, of course, are a lie. They have not just been informed, but let me just go on and read it here. Canada, a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% tariffs for years on dairy products, has just announced that they're putting a digital service tax on American technology companies. Again, another lie. We didn't just announce it, which is a direct, blatant attack on our country. They are obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussions with us. Based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada, effective immediately. We will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the United States within the next 7-day period. Again, another lie, because of course Canada will not be paying the tariff. If the United States decides on a certain tariff on Canadian imports, US companies that do the importing of those goods from Canada will pay the tariff, which is just another name for import tax. The US importers will pay that tax, but it doesn't really matter if what he says is accurate, truthful, or lies. This post is just directed at his base, and it's just intended to get his staunchest supporters on side. Yes, Canada, that terrible country that has 400% tariffs on us, and now they want to steal more money from us. Well, we need to stop all negotiations with them. Let's put them in their place. But before we go on and I give you my opinion of what I think is really happening, let's just define for you, what is this digital service tax? Well, for that, we can just go to the Tax Foundation of Europe website and we can read their report. Over the last few years, concerns have been raised that the existing international tax system does not properly capture the digitization of the economy. Under current international tax rules, multinationals generally pay corporate income tax where production occurs rather than where consumers are, or specifically for the digital sector, where users are located. However, some argue that through the digital economy, businesses derive income from users abroad, but without a physical presence, and are not subject to corporate income tax in that foreign country. So the decision was made by the EU to tax big corporations that offer digital services to users in their countries, to tax them a small amount. And Austria, Denmark, France, Hungary, Italy, Poland, Portugal, Spain, Switzerland, Turkey, and the United Kingdom have implemented a digital service tax. In Canada's case, that tax is a 3% tax to commence this coming Monday of the digital services revenue a firm makes from Canadian users above $20 million in a calendar year. So large companies that provide digital services to Canadians. And although in Trump's Truth Social post, he said that we were just informed of this and Canada just went ahead and did this because the Europeans did, the actual truth is the Minister of Finance announced plans to implement a digital service tax in November of 2020. The digital service tax entered into force on the 28th of June in 2024. And when the tax begins on Monday, it will retroactively collect digital service tax from corporations that have to pay that retroactively. So Canada stands to collect about $3 billion. And most of that money comes from the big US tech companies. Our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, said, "We'll continue to conduct these complex negotiations in the best interests of Canadians." And that's basically all he said about this issue. Now, I could give you my analysis of this with a picture of Donald Trump in the background, but let's not do that. I think it's much more pleasant to have the puppies behind me. Now, let me start by saying that everything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth is all rhetoric. There's no point reacting to what he says. Basically, all he does is capture the narrative over and over and over again all the time by spewing out whatever he wants. Now, he's the president of the United States and he has a great deal of power. And if he decides that he wants his country to pay tariffs, to pay taxes on imports of Canadian goods, that's fine. There's nothing any politician in Canada can do to change his mind or to negotiate with him. In fact, even negotiating with him on anything is fruitless because any deal that is ever made with Donald Trump isn't worth the piece of paper that it's written on, because he can just turn around and just not honor the deal or make other demands. What he's done consistently and very effectively is this tactic of taking over the narrative by spewing out whatever he wants and training all the cameras and all the media attention on him when he spews something. Remember, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. When the media, of course, obliges and just focuses on him, and you get thousands of headlines, mainly sensationalized and inflammatory rhetoric, the fact of the matter is nobody really knows why Trump says what he says. The key point is that when he says something, everyone listens to him and everyone wants to talk about it. Meanwhile, quietly in the background, he is pursuing his own agenda. And it just so happens that right now, at this moment, reported on Bloomberg here, President Trump amped up pressure on Congress to speed passage of his big tax cut bill. He posted on Truth Social, "The House of Representatives must be ready to send it to my desk by July 4th. We can get it done." He's talking about the big, beautiful deal, the massive tax cut, the 1,600-page bill, his agenda that he wants to pass. He's pressuring House Republicans to get this passed by July 4th. So he's doing his best to throw out as much inflammatory rhetoric on any topic he can other than this, so that the media will just focus on that. And this is his key agenda. He wants to get this bill passed and it will become law, and it will become one of his achievements. The Republican Party will pass this massive bill, and that will linger and stay baked into United States law for a long time. Very difficult to change in the future. Shouting at Canada on the internet and just saying, "All negotiations for trade are off until this digital service tax is dropped. We have all the cards. Canada's a terrible country. We'll make them pay." That's just over-the-top rhetoric that's going to suck up all the media. And he can change his mind next week. Now, the worst thing that Canadian leaders can do is give in to him, to say, "Oh, Donald, we're so sorry. We'll drop the digital service tax. Oh, there, see? We've dropped the digital service tax. Whew, now we can get back to negotiating trade." And then he'll move on to just another issue where he'll tweet or put a post on Truth Social about something else terrible that Canada's doing, and another way that he's going to hold our feet to the fire. He just acts like a bully and spews all this nonsense to attract all the media attention so that he can quietly get his agenda done in the background. And that's exactly how Canada has to treat Donald Trump. We have to not listen to him, not react to him, and not just launch onto any path just because of what he says. We have to respectfully try and continue the dialogue as best we can, and we have to quietly get our agenda going in the background. We have to diversify trade partners. We have to continue with that big deal we made with the Europeans. We have to set up new supply chains and new supply routes. This is going to take a long time and a big effort. We're going to need to expand our port facilities and our air facilities, because those are the only two ways that we can trade with other nations. It's easy to trade with the United States. You just do it through pipelines and roads and train lines, because we're connected to the United States. That's the only land border we have. And we've been very complacent over the past 50 years to just count on that. And we've put all our eggs in one basket. And now whenever the United States starts threatening us, we get all scared. And it doesn't matter if we react to what he says or we try and make him happy. It won't make any difference, because the goalposts move all the time. We could try and talk to him about the digital service tax, but it won't make any difference. He'll move on to the next issue. He uses issues. He doesn't solve issues. And here we are, ready for the tax to start within a few days, and he throws this big tantrum. Also, just a few days before he quietly wants to get his agenda through Congress. I'll give you another example of how the goalposts change. Do you remember when Donald Trump first launched the trade war against Canada, when he first hit Canada with tariffs? When he came out and said that Canada was a very unfair country, we treat them really badly, Canada's been taking advantage of us for so long, and Canada poses a national security threat to the United States because they let all that fentanyl in over the border and they're killing Americans, and until Canada fixes their border, I'm going to slap them with tariffs. Do you remember that? That was the initial reason why Donald Trump launched his tariff war in the first place, or at least that's what he said it was. And a lot of people just believed him face value. In particular, a lot of conservatives and Maple MAGA Canadians. Do you remember the types I'm thinking of that were all over social media and in some of the news agencies saying, well, why doesn't Canada just fix the border? That's all Donald Trump wants. If we fix the border, he'll just drop the tariffs. How naive some people are to get captured, hook, line, and sinker, just because Donald Trump said something. Do you remember those mainly conservatives? Why don't the liberals just fix the border and then Trump will drop all the tariffs? Daniel Smith went down to visit him in Mar-a-Lago and said, oh, we're going to do our best to fix the border, Donald. Think of how ridiculous that is. The real issue on the Canadian border is not fentanyl going from Canada to the United States. There's almost 0% of the amount of fentanyl that enters the United States which crosses the Canadian border. Almost all of it crosses the Mexican border or enters from planes and cargo ships from overseas. The real issue on the Canadian border is illegal guns coming from the US into Canada. And think of how ridiculous this is and how people fell for this. Why don't you just fix the border? If you fix the border, we'll drop the tariffs. Think about how insane that comment is. Let's say there's a drug dealer that lives in Canada that wants to smuggle fentanyl into the United States, okay? Well, he's not very smart because he's a low-level drug dealer. He's a mule, and his boss told him, hey, take this fentanyl and smuggle it into the United States for me. And he was not very smart, but he thought, okay, well, how do I do this? If I get on the plane, they usually search me when I get on the plane. I know, I'll drive across the border with the fentanyl. I'll put the fentanyl in a bag in my knapsack and I'll put it in the trunk of the car and I'll drive across the border. And he put the bag in the trunk of his car and he got in his car and he started driving towards the border. And he looked around and he said, wow, I've got fentanyl in my trunk and no one stopped me yet. Oh, this is working pretty good. Let me get to the border. And he drove to the border, and when he got right to that line on the border, he noticed the sign that says, "Welcome to the United States." And he stopped there and rolled down his window and looked to his left, and who did he see? A U.S. Customs agent. And the U.S. Customs agent asked him, "Can I see your passport?" And he said, "Whew, I'm lucky I remembered to bring my passport." And he handed his passport over to the custom agent. And the custom agent said, "What's your business in the United States?" And although he wasn't very smart, he was smart enough to come up with this excuse. "Well, I'm driving down to Florida to go to the hockey game. I'm an Edmonton Oilers fan, and I want to go see the hockey game." And the custom agent said, "You're going to go all the way down to Florida just to see a hockey game?" "Yeah, I'm a really big hockey fan. I'm going to go down there and see the hockey game." And the custom agent said, "Well, where are you going to stay?" And that stumped him a little bit, and he thought really hard. He was on the spot. He was getting a little nervous, but he said, "Well, I'm going to stay with some friends." And the custom agent said, "Oh yeah, well, how long are you going to stay? When are you going back to Canada?" "Well, just a day to drive down there, and then we're going to see the game tomorrow, and I'm going to come back the next day." And the custom agent looked at him like this and said, "All right, fine. Enjoy your visit to the United States." He was lucky because he didn't have any tattoos, and he wasn't brown in color. And he successfully smuggled some fentanyl from Canada to the United States. Now, having heard all that, tell me where Canada needs to fix the border in that situation. It's up to U.S. Customs to search people and material that cross the border into their country. It's not up to Canada to protect the United States border. We protect our own border and what comes into our country. That's how it works. So of course it was just a cloud of BS that he threw out there. There wasn't really a problem with fentanyl crossing from Canada into the United States. And if there was a problem and he was interested in solving the problem, he would have approached it differently. He would have assembled a team from the United States to work together with a team from Canada so that they could coordinate law enforcement together, so that they could share information more easily, so they could investigate drug crimes and drug dealers and drug criminals on either side of the border and share information and do investigations together. There would be dozens of ways that our two countries could work closer together if there really was a problem to try and solve it. But he's not interested in solving any problems. He's interested in using problems for his political agenda. And at that time, it was to implement tariffs against Canada and Mexico. And he needed an excuse to do it, and he came up with one. And it wouldn't have mattered what we did to our border. It would never have satisfied him because that wasn't the issue. What he says is never the issue. He says things so he can capture the attention of all the world's media. And he usually has to say extreme and bombastic things, more and more bombastic as time goes on, in order to keep captivating the media. And the media plays right into this, and you're going to see dozens and dozens of stories and videos from all sorts of people that are going to spin this whatever way they want. And they're going to pretend that this digital service tax is really the big issue and Canada needs to solve this. But this has nothing to do with the digital service tax. Now, if he gets a win on the digital service tax, if Canada decides to use that and forfeit that in order to negotiate a drop of tariffs, if we choose to use that as kind of a trading card to assure I'm going to say, quote unquote, deal, it won't really be a deal because there's no such thing as a deal with Donald Trump, in order to at least get to a point where we agree that we have an agreement, well, maybe that'll happen and maybe he'll score a little bit of a win there. But the reason for his outburst is never what it seems. Donald Trump has stick-handled his way around the whole world's media, and in fact has stick-handled his way around all the media and the Democrats and everyone in the United States. Because really, what Donald Trump is playing in the United States, he's not a president. He's a reality TV star. He's the star of the reality TV show that is the United States. And every day a new episode is aired, and each episode has to be more dramatic than the previous one, so the media's eyes stay focused on them. And in the background, what he's doing quietly in the background is what really matters, because that's what's going to last in law in the United States. So as far as Canada's concerned, we just have to stay on course, stay focused, do our business quietly in the background, and do our best to be respectful and not increase the rhetoric and not increase the drama, and just communicate, potentially negotiate the best we can as politely as we can while we do our own business. Now, I thought I would just share my perspective with all of you on this. I don't normally do videos every day. I'm a one-man show, and it takes me a lot of time to put together these videos and research all the numbers and research all the data so that I can refer to actual facts when I do my analysis and give my opinion. But I thought I had to do it for this particular case because this is going to be all over the news. And I wanted to give you my perspective so that you don't just get sucked into that media cycle and fall into one echo chamber where you just believe something, or you believe the answer is now we have to get rid of the digital service tax. We need to fix the border. Locusts! It's easy to overreact. So I'm just saying keep calm and let Carney go on. That's the new saying that's been popping up online recently. Thanks for watching, everyone. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. If you wish to support my efforts monetarily on a monthly basis, consider becoming a channel member. I always leave a link to where you can sign up as a channel member in my comment that I pin as the top comment in the comment section. So have a fantastic rest of your day. Don't let this get you down. Get out and enjoy the beautiful weather and the summer that's happening right before our eyes in our beautiful country. And I will catch you all on the next one.